Now, the monarchy may have had a difficult time here in the East Midlands in the past. Richard III lost his crown here, Charles I surrendered at Newark Castle, and Edward VIII is said to have first met Mrs Simpson at Harlexton, would you believe? But are we really a hotbed of anti-royalists? Well, the campaign group Republic is holding its annual conference this weekend in Leicester because it says there's strong support here in our region. So we sent Des to find out.
Leicester, resting place of King Richard III, a great place to come to ask people what they think of the current monarch. Millen, you're from Leicester, but you now live in Australia. What's your ideas on the monarchy?
I know as an English person, I get very nostalgic when I'm not home. So to think of a queen and a country where, you know, it brings me a great sense of national pride. To think of a place like England where I can call home with, you know, a big figurehead like the Queen, you know, to represent me and myself. It gives me some identity, yeah.
I would say I'll be anti-monarchy if I had a choice, one way or the other, I would say. So, simple as that.
Monarchy or not?
I prefer to have a monarchy. I quite like the monarchy, actually. I'm a bit of a royalist on the quiet. I don't see the argument about they cost the country all this money and that. I'm proud to have a queen and quite proud.
What do you say to those people that say it costs too much money?
But they never say how much money she brings into the country. You know, all the tourists come, all we want to go and see Buckingham Palace and all the royal palaces and things, so they must bring a fortune into the country.
Like, the Queen's the Queen, to me. I was brought up, like, knowledgeably from my grandparents knowing about the Queen. And without the Queen, there's no history in the country without her. You know, she's on £10 notes and etc. So,
Oriane, what are your thoughts on the monarchy?
Well, love them or loathe them, they're here, they're not going anywhere. I think it's fantastic for tourism in this country, and I know we're experiencing a really bad time financially at the moment, and there's always argument as to whether they cost us too much. But I think we really need them at the moment. They're a morale booster, and when all's said and done, they work very, very hard.
Quite a lot of royal fans there at the Richard III Exhibition Centre in Leicester. Joining us now is Graham Smith. You're the Chief Executive of Republic, and admittedly this isn't a very scientific poll, but how come you've said that the East Midlands is this hotbed for anti-monarchism?
Well, I think we've said that there are lots of people in the area that do support our campaign. There's lots of people around the whole country that support our campaign. I mean, it's 20-25%.
Particularly here in the East Midlands, though?
Well, I mean, certainly within our membership, we've got a particular cluster of people in the Midlands that are supportive, and you know, we're quite keen because our campaign over the last 2 years since the announcement of the wedding has grown enormously, and as a kind of a reflection of that, we're moving our annual conference out of London into the Midlands. Next year it will be in Glasgow, so it's kind of a reflection on the growth of our campaign.
But opinion polls regularly show overwhelming support for the royal family.
Yes, well, I mean, let's sort of qualify that. What it shows is overwhelming view that we can keep it as it is. It's not the same as a love and affection for the monarchy. There is a constituency that clearly do love the monarchy. There's a big chunk of people that clearly want to get rid of it.
Poll,
a lot of people
she
in the middle.
came out very well.
No, because the Queen, you've got to make the distinction, Queen and the monarchy.
Yes.
With the monarchy, people are saying, you know, we've not really thought about it. Can't see a problem, let's keep it. Our job is to show what the problem is. With the Queen, they're judging her entirely against who she is. They've got nothing else to judge it against. So it's very difficult to make a serious judgment as to what sort of head of state we could have and how she measures up against
Are you a royalist, Anna?
Well, of course I am. What
do you mean, of course you are? You don't have to be.
No, I know. But I mean, I think we have to get this into some sort of perspective, because with great respect, I shouldn't think... How many hundreds of members have you got here in the East Midlands, I think?
Well,
have you even got 100?
Of course, we've got thousands across the whole country. So I mean,
thousands. No, I'm being horrible. Sorry. No, I just think the Queen has never been so popular. But you make a good point, which is to say the popularity of the Queen, because of her age, her longevity, the fact she works hard and she's just all round brilliant, doesn't mean to say that people necessarily support the monarchy. Actually, I think they do, because I think the alternative, and when you look at the alternative, which is essentially a presidency, even though I think Obama's brilliant, you go to countries like France, the French president.
That's not the alternative that's being proposed, and that's not the alternative that's proposed by most Republicans.
Okay,
the alternative is, the closest analogy is what you have in Republic of Ireland, where you elect, and they do this very successfully in Ireland, great people to be the head of state, doing a job similar to
But they do in France,
Queen.
don't they?
Are you a royalist, Chris?
Well, we've all got to take an oath of allegiance to the Queen. Every single member of
Parliament
does that.
So you have to be in that case, then.
And of course, she is very popular. What I think is quite interesting is this is not exactly a sort of constitutional debate coming up right now. It's centuries old. In fact, I think in 2 years' time, we've got the 800th anniversary of the Magna Carta, which was the first time they talked about constraining the arbitrary powers of the monarchy. So I suspect there'll be even more debate in the run-up to that.
They bring in a heck of a
anniversary.
lot of money to this country,
no,
though, don't
they don't. And the problem is,
Well, they do.
no, they really don't. And I can tell you, I'll come back to this in a moment. But the problem with the support and the issue is that it doesn't really get debated on serious grounds very often, and often these sorts of myths around, you know, the money that comes in.
How much money do they bring in?
Well, there's no evidence. Well, let me tell you,
Let me tell you, Brand Finance, a marketing company, they did a proper assessment of this.
No, they
and
didn't. No,
they
they
reckon
didn't.
that they brought in £500 million a year in tourism.
I've got to correct you. Brand Finance, that was a PR stunt at the time of the Jubilee. That was all it was. Their report has no credibility. Now, I sat in the office of the chief exec and the chair.
What do they bring in then?
Well, let me tell you, I sat in the office of the chief exec and chair of Visit Britain. And I said to them, there is not a shred of evidence that if we get rid of the monarchy, our tourism will go down. And they said, you're absolutely right.
Well, I don't agree with them. I don't care what they said, because if you go to Buckingham Palace...
What are all these tourists doing around Buckingham Palace then?
Windsor Castle.
This isn't complicated. People, when they're tourists, they go to see these things. They don't come here because we've got a monarchy.
No, they do.
No, they don't.
Honestly, they do.
They really
and if you
don't.
look at the sales of all those mugs...
She might wave at them through the window occasionally. Maybe that's what they're hoping for.
I've been down and asked them.
There's bound to be an element of that.
Can I just say, I think one of the actually quite interesting things is, at the time of Diana's death, I think that must have been one of the all-time lows for the royal family, and they were in real PR, if you like, trouble then. And it is quite remarkable to see how they got that. And it's like, I'm old enough to remember when they actually had the documentary on the royal family.
They've got good PR. They brought in professional PR people. All they've done is to change their PR. That's all they've done. And they've also got the enormous amounts of help from the BBC.
You won't be going to the palace anytime soon, Graham Smith. Graham, we'll have to leave it there. Thanks very much indeed. You won't be invited to the palace.